Well, I've always loved Bolivar. I mean, I'm a Bolivar native. I've been here for most of my life. I was born and raised here, graduated from Bolivar High School and Southwest Baptist University. I've always loved this town. I've always liked the small town feel and the small town atmosphere. I've always liked the principles and the ideals of a small town. And I don't feel like you have to sacrifice those principles and ideals in order to be prosperous. And I like to merge both of those. I really do love I've always enjoyed politics. I've always enjoyed the way municipalities work, and I love Bolivar. I want to see it grow and succeed and prosper, and I'd like to lead us into that. I think mayor qualifications covers a lot of different areas. I think you have to have good interpersonal skills and have a strong background in that. I am a business owner and have learned a lot about having to sacrifice everything to make things work, and knowing at the end of the day, if you don't do what you have to do, things won't fail, or excuse me, won't succeed, and making sure to get the things done need to get done. You have to learn how to work with people. My master's degree is in clinical psychology. I have a great deal of experience dealing with people at all different levels. I feel as far as qualifications go, I know a lot about Bolivar from having been here. I understand the way the town works, and there's a bit of it that just kind of soaks into you as a person if you've been here for a while. When I was in high school, the kids used to say it was a pit where once you were here, you couldn't always leave. You'd always come back and find a way back here. And I don't think that about this town. I actually chose to be here and chose to be back here. Other things that I feel qualify me for it, I'm good with numbers. I've always been good with budgets. I've led multi-million-dollar social service agencies before. I've worked with federal grants at lots of different levels. I've worked in the drug treatment field. I've worked with homeless adolescents. I've worked with kids who are victims of sexual abuse. I've worked as an administrator. I've worked in one-on-one settings. So I feel like qualifications can really cover a lot of different areas, and I have a lot of experience in those, as well as I mentioned earlier, having an educational background too. Well, the first thing, and I've touched on this a lot, is I feel like we should have a mechanism in place that will allow people to address their elected officials every time those elected officials meet in an open session. I honestly feel that we need to find a way to make people feel like there isn't something going on, and not only just not doing it, but abstaining even from the appearance of it. I feel like we should explore all avenues. Social media has been a big issue. People talk about Facebook, people talk about Twitter and other places where social media sites gather. Those have become important. In this day and age, we have to accept those as not necessarily always legitimate sources, but real sources of information and information flow. One of the things that most surprised me in the last 2 years is going through a Taco Bell drive-thru at 11:30 one night, and somebody said, "Hey, aren't you Rob Ross, the guy that posts the city council information on Facebook?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "I never knew what was going on in the city before that because I just didn't know. But now that I can read it on Facebook, I know what's going on in the city." And I think we have opportunities to do that. I mean, there's ways that we can use social media and digital media and digital technology to get information to people. And I think we should address those more than we currently do. Maybe even a more interactive website for the city. One of the things that I think does concern businesses as they come to Bolivar is that we have a high sales tax. And I think we have to honestly look at that. And our sales tax, the idea behind the high sales tax is we have things to pay for. But each quarter for quite a few months in a row, our sales tax revenue has been down. And we can't continue to ignore that as a city. So one of the things as mayor that I would like to look at is, and I've had several local businesses, I've had community leaders come to me and say, our sales tax is too high. And it causes people to go shopping elsewhere. I think it also has a tendency to scare away potential businesses here. We have a high sales tax compared to a lot of other communities. Now, I'm not saying let's go in and cut taxes. What I'm saying is we need to revisit where our sales tax is at compared to other places. That's the first thing. The second thing is I think the city needs to bend over backwards to find ways to support local business and business growth and development. As long as we are a city that does not rely on property tax, I am not for a property tax in any way. As long as we're a city that continues to rely on sales tax alone, then we have got to find a way to keep retail-based businesses in this town. We've got to be generating sales tax revenue. We've got to be doing those things, which means if the city's got to get out to grand openings for places, if the city's got to promote things on their website, again with that, the idea of using social media, businesses have events in this town all the time. The problem is getting that information out to the people that could use those services and would be interested in those events. And I think trying to find a way to partner, that public-private partnership, I think is the key to success in keeping and growing and bringing businesses to this town. That's a question that I've heard from a lot of people. A lot of people have different ideas on that, from billboards to putting it out into a real estate world and trying to get the real estate agents to help out with that. I honestly think the best thing that we can do is signage is a great way. There's a local business actually that uses a slang, business with no sign is a sign of no business. And I think we see that a lot with our industrial park. Most people don't know where it is or don't know what it is when they hear about it. The first key to that is education, information, getting the word out there to that. And then there are also businesses, every day we read it on Facebook, I read it in the news. For example, in Colorado right now, there is a munitions factory that is wanting to close its doors in Colorado because of the new strict laws regarding gun control. I think as a city, we get a hold of places like that. We get on the front edge. Let's not wait for them to approach us. Let's go out and search out those businesses and those agencies and say, hey, we have a wonderful industrial park here. We have a populace that would love the jobs. And we are, in Missouri, we're very pro-gun and pro-ammo, and we would love this kind of business here. I think it's a good fit for something like Southwest Missouri. One of the other things I've thought about a lot is that we have a lot of trucks pass on 13 Highway between Kansas City and Springfield, between Kansas City and Arkansas, between Walmart's headquarters in Arkansas and Kansas City, where they spread out over the Midwest. We've never, that I know of, have looked at the idea of having a warehouse where these trucks would have a central pickup point right outside our industrial park. Would be an ideal spot for that. Right on 13 Highway, or the highway access, on a main thoroughfare. 13 Highway is a well-traveled road, and be able to use that and promote that. And those are some of the ideas I think that we should, instead of waiting for people to come looking for us, we should go out looking for opportunities. I would have to say that when the city's hiring guidelines are followed, absolutely. I don't think that they are always followed the same for different employees. So I would say that according to what we have in our policy and procedures manual, yes, sir. I don't think that those are always necessarily followed, and a lot of that has to do with the difference between a hired position and an appointed position. And I think that's where some of the issues come into play. Always. I can't think of a single reason why an extensive background check wouldn't be a good thing for a potential agency or for the city. Why would we not want as much information as possible before hiring someone? I think the bottom line in a lot of lawsuits, now I've not personally ever been involved in any kind of a lawsuit other than divorce. I've never been sued. I've never had, even though the rumors are going around that I get sued regularly, it has yet to happen. I think the number one reason why we as a city have a problem with lawsuits is a lack of communication between the two parties. And if we had more open communication between the two sides of the situation and less just straight up animosity, I think we'd have to do a better job of avoiding some of those. I'm really not privy to the details of that. I don't get involved in it. I've tried to do the best I can to keep my mayoral campaign separate from what he's doing with where he's at. He's my brother. It's impossible to keep us totally separated. But to be perfectly honest with you, I don't want anybody to sue the city. My brother, my parents, whoever it might be. And in any situation where the city looks like they might get sued, I think that your first job is to sit down and say, look, what can we do to avoid this? Now, obviously that's not going to happen 100% of the time. But regardless of who it is that's suing the city, I would be more than happy to find a way to avoid that. Now, the city's been through some lawsuits in recent years, and a lot of those are things that can't be talked about because they were executive-level situations. When I was an alderman, for example, we were involved in one, and it was a lawsuit that was very easily solved when we actually got to sit down and discuss some of the parameters of it, and could have saved the city a lot of money and legal fees and a lot of time. And I think if we just take that opportunity to do that, then yeah. If you're asking me, am I going to talk my brother out of suing the city? Number one, it doesn't seem necessarily cogent to the mayoral campaign, because regardless of who's suing the city for what reason, I would want to sit down and talk with them and find a way to work that out. I've never believed, and this is actually a matter of public record, because I was on the Board of Aldermen when we discussed this. I've never believed, whether it be a corporation looking to improve their bottom line before the quarterly shareholder meetings take place, or trying to find a way to take care of the bottom line. I believe you take care of people first, and those people take care of the city. And even at a time, we were discussing those terminations before, I actually presented an ordinance to the City Council to get rid of aldermen's salaries, including the mayor's salary, to at least try to save the job of one police officer. And then believe that then and believe that now, we take care of people first. And if we take care of our people, the people will take care of our city. I don't think that slashing jobs is a way to save money for two reasons. Number one, if we could slash them to save money, then why do we have that job in the first place? If it was an unnecessary position. And number two, we're a small enough town that when we do slash positions, the repercussions of less income in the town also hits the town through sales tax means and through support of other local businesses. I was not. Nope, not on October 12th. No, sir. I actually resigned from that position in May, earlier that year, when my address was 271 North Winfred. No, I resigned from Alderman in, let's see, it would be right after it was the meeting after the terminations of the employees. I think that was April 13th, wasn't it? Because I remember people were talking about being Friday the 13th. The first Alderman meeting after that, I gave my letter of resignation in open session. I didn't feel like it was something I should do in a closed session. And my divorce was 6 months later. So. Oh, my address, my time of my divorce, if you look at the court documents that were filed then, my address, because there's two different situations, but the address at that time was 120 South Springfield, Apartment A. I mean, I'm not sure what the clerical record is. I keep all my divorce paperwork, so I have that if you'd like to see it. But the county clerk can show them my address at the time of my divorce and filed on the divorce paperwork was 120 South Springfield, well, Suite A, sorry, 120 South Springfield, Suite A. I've lived at 1325 South Lillian a couple of different times, okay. So that might be the issue there as well. No, did not. And actually, I mean, AJ Ellis is the property manager there. He can pull up the lease and the record and the files and things, but he could show that. But no, my address, I never lived there very long. But when I was divorced in October, we filed on the 12th. Or was it the 13th of October of 2011?
The 12th.
Okay. Because my dad had a heart attack the next day. We had a city council meeting that night. And then I resigned the following April. I also have the lease from Justin Ballard, who's the property owner for that. I mean, he could show you the lease and show you that I live there. So I also have electric bills that would verify that as well.
Okay.
And an internet bill, and water bill. The one thing that my campaign has clearly said, and we've shared with each other from the beginning, is that we feel like we're going to do the right thing every time. When I was in high school, Coach Poss used to say, do with class or let it pass. And we've tried to do that now. I know there's a lot of rumors going about things that I or my staff have done, but I'm not nearly so much the monster probably as I've been made out to be. I absolutely 100% love this town and want to see the best for this town. And regardless of how this election turns out, the next day I'm going to get up that morning, go to work, and work on fundraisers and support the community the same way I have been for the last several years. But look forward to being your mayor.